When I called my son Max to ask when the wedding would be, Lena looked at me straight in the eyes and smiled that strange, cold smile. "Oh, we got married yesterday," she said. "We only invited special people." For a few seconds, I just stood there, not sure if I'd heard right. Special people. I'd been the one paying their rent for years. $500 every month. I bought their furniture, filled their fridge when they had nothing. But apparently, I wasn't special enough. I was in my own living room, holding the phone like it weighed a ton, watching my son avoid my face while Lena sat down comfortably on the couch I had bought for them. The soft pink dress I'd picked out for her wedding was still hanging in my closet. New shoes, too. Everything ready for a day I wasn't even told about. That dress had cost me $200. I'd imagined smiling in their wedding photos, proud and happy. I'd even saved $1,000 to gift them. I'd told my sister Diana in Chicago about the big day. I'd cleaned the house like crazy, thinking they might stop by after the ceremony. All those plans disappeared with those 4 words. Only special people. Max finally looked at me and said something like, "Mom, it was just a small ceremony, only us and the witnesses." His voice sounded practiced. But I already knew the truth. I'd seen the photos online, her parents there, her siblings holding champagne glasses, and her wedding dress. The one I'd helped pay for with the $800 she asked for last month. A week later, she called again. Her tone was different this time. Shaky, worried. "Renate, the rent's due. The landlord says we'll get kicked out if we don't pay this week. You forgot to send the money." I didn't say anything right away. I just thought about all the times I'd rushed to send that money, all the meals I'd skipped, all the little things I gave up so they could have more. And now, after everything, after shutting me out of their wedding, she still talked like nothing had happened. "Lena," I said finally, steady but calm, "didn't I tell you I only help special people?" Silence, the kind that hurts. I could hear my own heartbeat. And for once, she was the one who didn't know what to say. "Renate, I don't understand," she whispered. "We've always been special to you. You're like a second mom to me." I almost laughed. The same sweet tone she always used when she needed something. The same tone she used when asking for money. For the dress, the honeymoon, the rings. Things I paid for but never even got to see. For years, I'd been careful with every word, trying to keep peace, trying to earn a little affection. I was the quiet mother, the helpful one, the woman who said yes even when she was tired. But those words, "only special people," woke something inside me. That night, I sat and did the math. 3 years of rent, $18,000, groceries and other things, $7,200, gifts, birthdays, holidays, another $3,000, medical emergencies, $800. And the car loan they never paid back, $20,500. Over $20,000. From my retirement. From what my husband left me, and what did I get? Not even a seat at my own son's wedding. I cried that night, but it wasn't sadness anymore. It was something heavier. Anger, years of swallowing my feelings. I cried for the woman who had spent years trying to prove her love mattered. For the mother who forgot herself just to feel needed. The next morning, I woke up different. Still tired, still older, but clear. I made my coffee. I didn't check my phone. Didn't wait for an apology. For once, I put myself first. At that same kitchen table where I used to plan for them, I sat quietly. The papers were still spread out. Rent, bills, gifts. But this time, I wasn't thinking about them. I was thinking about me. The air conditioner repair in their apartment had cost $600. The living room furniture, another $200. In total, my generosity had reached exactly $33,400. That's how much I had spent. Money from my husband's inheritance, from my pension, from years of careful saving. All that gone, just to keep 2 grown adults comfortable. People who couldn't even pretend to respect me. The phone rang. Max's name appeared on the screen. Usually my heart would race and I'd grab the phone, hoping he'd finally call to say sorry, maybe explain it was all a misunderstanding. But this time I just watched it ring. Once, twice, 3 times. Then it stopped. I took another sip of my coffee and didn't move. 10 minutes later, it rang again. This time it was Lena. I let it ring too. Then a message came from Max. "Mom, please answer. We need to talk." I deleted it without replying. By 2 in the afternoon, I decided to go for a walk. Something I hadn't done in months without a purpose. Usually, every trip had a reason. The bank for their transfers, the store to pick up something they needed, the pharmacy for Lena's medicine. Today I went simply because I wanted to. As I walked past the park where I used to take Max as a little boy, I remembered that child, the one who hugged me tight and said I was the best mom in the world. When had that boy turned into a man who saw me only as an ATM with feelings? When did I start believing that love could be bought with money? I stopped in front of the bank, the same one where I'd made countless transfers over the years. Through the glass, the branch manager, Mr. Klein, saw me and waved. He had known me for years, processed every payment I sent them, watched my balance shrink month after month. I went straight to his office. "Mr. Klein," I said, "I need to cancel all the automatic transfers I've set up." He looked at me, surprised. For 3 years, those transfers had been as steady as sunrise. "Are you sure, Mrs. Richter? Did something happen?" he asked gently. His concern felt more real than anything my son had shown in a long time. "What happened is that I finally opened my eyes," I told him. "I want to cancel everything, and I need to make sure no one else has access to my money." As he worked, my phone started buzzing again. Max, then Lena, then Max again. It was almost funny, as if they could sense that their easy money was in danger. I turned the phone off completely. When Mr. Klein handed me the papers, he said, "Forgive me for asking, Mrs. Richter, but are you sure you're not being pressured into this? You've always been generous with your family." His words touched me. This man barely knew me beyond bank forms, yet showed more genuine care than my own son. "I'm not being pressured," I said quietly. "If anything, I've stopped pressuring myself. When I walked out of the bank, I felt lighter, as if I had left behind a heavy weight I'd carried for years. For the first time in a long time, my money truly belonged to me. No more transfers, no more guilt. As I walked home, I thought about all the things I'd given up for them. The trips I never took, the friends I lost touch with, the hobbies I stopped enjoying, because every expense on myself felt like stealing from them. When I reached my house, 3 cars were parked out front, Max's, Lena's, and one I didn't recognize. Through the window, I could see movement inside. My stomach dropped. They still had keys. I'd given them keys, thinking they would someday care for me like I'd cared for them. I took a deep breath and opened the door. What I saw, I'll never forget. Max sat on my sofa, head in his hands. Lena was pacing nervously, and an older man I didn't know was sorting through papers on my dining table. My personal papers. "What's going on here?" I asked, louder than I intended. They all looked at me as if I were the intruder. Lena spoke first, her tone fake and hurried. "Renate, thank goodness you're here. We need to talk. This is Mr. Fisher. He's from the law firm we consulted about your situation." "My situation?" I asked. "What situation? I'm fine." Max finally looked up, his eyes full of panic, not concern. "Mom, we went to the bank. They said you canceled all the transfers and blocked our access to your accounts. Why would you do that?" The man in the gray suit stepped closer, extending his hand. "Mrs. Richter, I'm Dr. Fisher, a family lawyer. Your children are worried about your mental health and asked me to review the situation." I ignored his hand and gathered my papers from the table. "These are private." "You have no right to touch them." "Mom," Max said, using that slow, patronizing tone I'd come to hate. "We're just worried about you. You've been acting strange, cutting us off, ignoring our calls. We think you might need some help." Lena came closer, pretending to be gentle. "Renate, honey," she said softly, "you've been under a lot of stress. Maybe loneliness is getting to you. It's normal to get confused at your age." Confused. The word hit me like a slap. Now I understood. They hadn't come to help. They'd come to take control. They wanted to declare me unfit and take my money. "I'm not confused," I said firmly. "I'm clearer than I've been in years. And you're all going to leave my house. Right now." Mr. Fisher tried to sound calm and reasonable. "Mrs. Richter, please, I understand this feels overwhelming. But your children have a right to intervene if they believe your judgment is impaired. They've noted several concerning behaviors." "Concerning behaviors?" I laughed bitterly. "Like what? Deciding my money belongs to me? Choosing to stop paying for 2 adults who treat me like garbage?" Lena jumped up. "We never treated you badly. Your family. Everything you have will belong to us one day anyway. We're just speeding up the process." There it was. The truth? In their eyes, I was already gone. Just an inheritance waiting to be collected. "Out," I said, pointing to the door. "All of you. out of my house. Max stood up, his face red with anger, looking like the spoiled boy he used to be when he didn't get his way. "Mom," he said, "we can't just leave. We have responsibilities. Rent, car payments, and that credit card you co-signed for," Max said, his voice tense. "You can't just stop helping us overnight." "I can't?" My voice rose for the first time in the entire conversation. "Who says I can't? For years I've been paying rent for a home that doesn't even have my name on the lease. I've stocked a refrigerator in a house where I was never truly welcome. I financed a life that clearly didn't include me." Mr. Fisher took a folder from his briefcase and set it on the table. "Mrs. Richter," he said carefully, "we've prepared some documents to make this transition smoother. A temporary power of attorney so Max and Lena can handle your finances until you feel better." I took the folder and, without looking at it, tossed it straight into the trash. "The only transition happening here," I said, "is yours. Out the front door." Lena began to cry, though it wasn't sadness I saw. It was frustration, even anger. "You can't do this to us, Renate. We were counting on you. We made plans with your help in mind. We bought things, took on responsibilities." "Responsibilities," I said, "based on my money. Not my happiness, not my company, just my money. And now that I've decided to use my money for my own life, suddenly I'm a confused old woman who needs supervision." Max tried to step closer, but I moved back. He wasn't the boy who once ran into my arms after bad dreams. He was a 35-year-old man who saw me as a wall between himself and an easy life funded by someone else. "Mom, we made mistakes," he said softly, pretending to sound sorry. "The wedding was a misunderstanding. Lena was nervous. I was under pressure. We can fix all of this if you just start being reasonable again." "Reasonable?" I repeated, the word tasting bitter. "Being reasonable means paying your bills while you treat me like a stranger. It means pretending it didn't break me to be left out of my only son's wedding." Mr. Fisher began gathering his papers with the speed of someone used to hearing no. "Mrs. Richter, this isn't over," he said. "Your family has legal options. If you're acting irrationally due to mental health issues, a judge can assign guardianship." His words hit hard. This wasn't just manipulation anymore. It was a real legal threat. They wanted control of my life and finances. "Mr. Fisher," I said, meeting his eyes, "you should do your research before threatening a 71-year-old woman who has managed her money perfectly for 40 years, raised a son alone after losing her husband, ran a household, and worked honorably until retirement, and who, until last week, supported 2 fully capable adults." Lena stopped crying. Her face hardened. "This isn't over, Renate. We have rights, and lawyers, too." "Excellent," I said. "Hire as many as you want. With your money, not mine. Because my wallet is closed. Permanently." The 3 of them left with the offended pride of people who aren't used to hearing no. Before walking out, Max turned to me. "Mom, this will end badly for you. You'll end up alone, with no one to care for you when you need it most." "Max," I said quietly, with both sadness and calm, "I already am alone. The difference is, now it's by choice. Not because of your neglect." I closed the door behind them and stood still. The silence that followed was the most peaceful sound I'd heard in years. The sound of freedom. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not from regret, but from the rush of taking my life back. I lay awake planning my next steps, like a general preparing for battle. If they wanted a fight, they'd get one. But I'd fight smart, not emotionally. At 6 a.m, I was up and ready. My first stop, the office of Mr. Weber, a lawyer I'd met years ago while handling my husband's estate. Unlike Fisher, Weber had a spotless reputation and specialized in elder rights. "Mrs. Richter," he said after I explained everything, "what your children did is sadly common. It's called elder financial abuse, a federal crime. Entering your home without permission and touching your private papers is also illegal." His words both comforted and worried me. Comforted because they proved I wasn't imagining things. Worried because I realized how serious it all was. "We need to document everything," he continued. "Every transfer, every gift, every time they pressured you for money. We'll also update your will to protect your assets." We spent 3 hours going through my records. When he saw the total, $33,400 in 3 years, Mr. Weber shook his head. "Mrs. Richter, with this money, you could have traveled, lived comfortably, enjoyed retirement. Instead, you funded 2 adults who didn't even invite you to their wedding. When I left his office, I had a plan. Change all the locks on my house, install a full security system with cameras, open a new bank account at another bank, start living the life I'd postponed for years. My next stop was the hardware store. Mr. Summer, the owner, had seen me many times before, always buying things for Max and Lena's apartment. "Mrs. Richter," he said with a smile, "another emergency for your son?" "Not this time," I said. "This one's for me. I need to change all the locks. Best quality you've got." He looked surprised, but said nothing. His son Ethan, who installed security systems, happened to walk in. "Perfect timing, Ethan," I said. "I need cameras too. Full system. Don't worry about the cost." While they arranged the installation, my phone rang. An unknown number. I answered, and it was Lena calling from someone else's phone. "Renate, please don't hang up. We need to talk like adults." "Go ahead," I said calmly. "Look, I know you're upset about the wedding," she began. "It was a mistake. Max and I talked about it. We want to make it up to you. How about a special dinner? Just the three of us. We can do it at your house, cook together like before." The manipulation in her tone was almost laughable. "Lena," I asked, "how much rent do you owe?" Her silence said it all. "Well, 2 months. $1,000 total. But that's not why I'm calling, really. We miss you, Renate. We want you back in our lives." "Do you miss me or my money?" I asked directly. "Both," she said after a pause. "I won't lie. Yes, we need help, but we love you too. You matter to us." "If I matter," I said, "why wasn't I important enough to be at your wedding? Why don't you ever call unless you need money? When was the last time you called just to ask how I was?" Another silence. We both knew the answer. "Lena," I said quietly, "you treated me like an ATM for 3 years. You ignored me, used me, and humiliated me. Now that the money's gone, you suddenly love me? No. You made your choice when you decided I wasn't special enough to be at your wedding. Now I'm making mine." I hung up and turned off the phone. It was my day of freedom. I wouldn't let them ruin it. That afternoon, I visited the beauty salon I hadn't been to in over a year. I'd always canceled appointments because Max or Lena needed something. "Mrs. Richter," my stylist Cynthia said in surprise. "What a treat to see you. I thought you'd forgotten us." "I didn't forget you," I said. "I just forgot that I deserve care too. I got the full treatment. Haircut, color, manicure, pedicure. For once, I spent money on myself without guilt." "You look wonderful," Cynthia said when she finished. "But more than that, you look free. Did something good happen?" "Yes," I said. I finally learned how to say no. When I got home, I noticed a car parked by my house that I didn't recognize. My heart skipped. For a moment, I thought Max and Lena were back. But as I approached, I saw an older woman sitting on my porch steps. "Mrs. Richter?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "Can I help you?" "I'm Eleanor Brooks, your neighbor. We've never really talked, but yesterday I heard shouting and wanted to make sure you're okay." Her genuine concern touched me deeply. A neighbor who barely knew me cared more than my own child. "Come in, Mrs. Brooks," I said. "I'll make some coffee and tell you a story you won't believe." As I brewed the coffee, I told her everything. She listened quietly, nodding from time to time. When I finished, her eyes glistened with tears. "Mrs. Richter," she said gently, "you did the right thing. I went through something similar with my daughter 5 years ago. I also thought it was my duty to support her financially. I believed she wouldn't love me if I stopped helping." "What happened?" I asked. "I stopped sending money once I realized she only called when she needed something," she explained. "At first it was awful. She threatened me, guilt-tripped me, and tried to make me feel like a bad mother. But after 6 months, she called to apologize sincerely. Now we have a real relationship. One based on love, not money." Her story gave me hope and reminded me that I had made the right decision. "Do you think Max and Lena will ever understand?" I asked. "Maybe," she said honestly. "Maybe not. But that's not your job anymore. Mrs. Richter, your job now is to live your own life." That night, for the first time in 3 years, I went to bed without worrying about whether Max and Lena had money for rent, groceries, or their endless wants. I thought only about myself, my plans, my future, and I slept better than I had in years. The next morning, Ethan and Mr. Summer arrived at 8 to change the locks and install the new security system. My phone kept ringing from unknown numbers. Lena was still trying to reach me from different phones, but I had learned something new: how to ignore calls that didn't serve me. "Mrs. Richter," Ethan said while setting up the cameras, This system will give you peace of mind. You'll be able to see who's at your door from your phone, even when you're away. And if anyone enters without permission, the police are alerted instantly. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was installing a security system to protect myself from my own son. But strangely, it didn't hurt anymore. It just felt like a sensible way to protect my peace. While they worked, I decided to do something I hadn't done in years. Call my sister Diana in Chicago. We hadn't spoken much because our conversations always revolved around Max and Lena, how well they were doing, how much I had helped them, how proud I was to support them. I realized now those talks were just financial reports disguised as family news. "Renate," Diana answered, surprised. "Sister, how are you? It's been months." "I'm good, Diana. Actually, better than good," I said. I've finally come to my senses. I told her everything: the secret wedding, the humiliation, their visit with a lawyer, and my decision to stop funding them. She listened quietly, and when I finished, her reply stunned me. "Renate, it's about time," she said. "It always hurt to hear you brag about how much you gave them, as if love could be measured in dollars. I wanted to tell you something but didn't know how." "What is it?" I asked. "Max never spoke warmly about you at family gatherings," she said sadly. He'd say, "Mom helped with this," or "Mom bought that," but never, "I love my mom," or "I miss her." It was like you were a service, not his mother. Her words stung, but in a cleansing way, like when a wound is treated so it can finally heal. "You know what else I noticed?" Diana continued. "Lena always talked about you in the future tense. When Renate's gone, we'll remodel her house, or when we inherit, we'll invest." It sounded like they were waiting for you to die so they could truly live. The realization hit hard. They hadn't seen me as family, just as a temporary obstacle between them and their inheritance. After hanging up, I sat in my kitchen, letting everything sink in. I thought of my late husband, of the years I'd spent raising Max alone, and of the fortune I'd spent supporting two adults who treated me like a walking bank account. Then the doorbell rang. On my new security screen, I saw it was Eleanor, holding 2 mugs of coffee. I opened the door and she smiled warmly. "I thought you might like some company after what you told me." "Yesterday," she said, sat in my living room as she shared more from her own experience. My daughter used the same phrase as Lena does. "You're like a second mom." "We're special to you." "It'll all be ours one day." "They must all read the same emotional manipulation manual," she joked. "Do you think such a book exists?" I asked with a half smile. "Not officially," she said, "but they all follow the same rules. Chapter 1, make her feel needed. Chapter 2, create constant money emergencies. Chapter 3, if she resists, question her sanity." We laughed, though it was bittersweet. Recognizing those patterns in our own children was both sad and strangely freeing. "Did you ever feel guilty for stopping the money?" I asked. "Every single day for the first 3 months," she said. But then things changed. My daughter got a second job. Her husband stopped wasting weekends and started working. They learned to live within their means. And more importantly, they learned that I'm a person, not a resource. That afternoon, I decided to do something I'd been avoiding for years: visit my husband's grave. I always had excuses. Max or Lena needed something, or the cab fare was better spent on their emergencies. The cemetery was quiet and peaceful. Robert's grave looked neglected. I hadn't cleaned it in months. I sat beside the headstone and spoke softly. "Robert, my love, I think I lost myself for a while. After you left, I put everything into Max, trying to be both parents. Maybe in doing that, I forgot who I was." The wind brushed against my face. For a moment, I felt like he was listening. Our son. He's changed. Or maybe he was always like this, and I just refused to see it. But I've learned now. The money you left me to live comfortably, I spent taking care of them. But not anymore. I cleaned the grave, replaced the wilted flowers, and sat for a while in peace. For once, there was no rush to go home and solve someone else's crisis. When I returned, I saw 3 cars parked outside. My heart sped up. But this time, I was ready. On the camera feed, I saw Max, Lena, and 2 strangers, all gesturing angrily toward my house. I stayed in my car and called Mr. Weber. "Mr. Weber, they're here again." With more people. "What should I do?" "Stay in the car, Mrs. Richter," he said. "I'll be right there and call the police. We already filed for a temporary restraining order. They're not allowed on your property." Within minutes, Mr. Weber arrived with 2 patrol cars. I watched as officers spoke to Max and Lena. My son looked furious. Lena cried again, but her tears meant nothing now. One officer came over. "Ma'am, you can get out." "They're leaving." As I stepped out, Max shouted, "Mom, this is insane! We're your family. You can't call the police on your own son." "Family doesn't threaten to take away a person's rights," I said calmly. "Family doesn't invade homes or treat mothers like ATMs." Lena yelled, "You'll pay us what you owe. You co-signed our bills. You can't just abandon us." Mr. Weber stepped in. "Any further contact must go through my office," he said firmly. "And I advise you to speak to your own lawyer before making false claims. My client has proof of every voluntary payment. They left, angry but powerless. For the first time in a long while, I felt truly safe. I had support. From my lawyer, from Eleanor, and most importantly, from myself. That night, Eleanor invited me over for dinner. I met her daughter and saw what a real loving family looked like. Mutual respect, laughter, and no talk of money. I wanted that with Max too, I admitted. "Maybe one day," she said kindly. "But first, he needs to see you as a person who deserves respect, not as his income source." That night, I went to bed with something new in my heart, hope. The next few days were peaceful. Though I often saw Max and Lena drive past the house, sometimes they stopped for a few minutes, as if planning something. Mr. Weber had advised me to log every visit, time, date, and description for our case. "Their persistence will work in our favor," he said. "Every time they show up, it strengthens our request for a permanent restraining order." Then, on Friday morning, the doorbell rang. I checked the screen. A young, well-dressed woman stood outside holding a folder and smiling politely. "Good morning, Mrs. Renata Richter," she said when I opened the door. "I'm a social investigator from the Office of Senior Services. We received a report that you might be in a risky situation. I need to conduct a wellness check." My blood went cold. Max and Lena had escalated things again, this time involving the authorities. "Can I see your ID?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. "Of course." She showed a genuine-looking badge. "I'm Mrs. Schmidt. May I come in?" I let her in, knowing refusal might look suspicious. Mrs. Schmidt sat in my living room, took out some papers, and began. "Mrs. Richter, we've received information that you've made sudden financial changes, cut off family contact, and installed unnecessary security systems. We also heard you've rejected medical and legal help from your relatives." Every word was chosen to make me seem paranoid and unstable. I recognized Lena's manipulative tone in every line. "Mrs. Schmidt," I said, holding my head high, "I'd like to call my lawyer before I answer any questions." "This isn't an interrogation, ma'am," she replied. "It's just a wellness check. If you have nothing to hide, you shouldn't mind talking to me." That phrase, "if you have nothing to hide," infuriated me. It was the same logic abusers use when they violate your boundaries. "If you're innocent, you shouldn't mind your privacy being checked," she said. "Miss, I'm calling my lawyer," I replied calmly. "You can wait here or return another day, but I won't answer any questions without legal representation." I called Mr. Weber, and he arrived within 20 minutes. When he entered and saw the social worker, his expression hardened. "Miss Schmidt," he said after reviewing her ID, "I hope you have a court order for this visit. My client is under my legal protection, and any unapproved investigation is harassment." "Sir," Mrs. Schmidt said, her confidence fading, "we received reports from concerned relatives about Mrs. Richter's safety. It's our responsibility to investigate." "What family?" Mr. Weber asked sharply. "The same family that tried to make her sign a power of attorney without representation? The same people who broke into her home and accessed her private papers? The same ones who excluded her from family events while living off her money?" Mr. Weber opened a folder from his briefcase and placed it on the table. "Here is full documentation of my client's financial and emotional abuse. $33,400 withdrawn from her accounts over 3 years, ongoing social exclusion, and emotional manipulation. If anyone here needs investigation, it's not my client." Mrs. Schmidt reviewed the papers, clearly uneasy. It was obvious that the information she'd received didn't match the reality in front of her. "Mrs. Richter," she asked finally, "can you explain why you suddenly stopped supporting your son financially?" "Because I discovered they were using me," I said simply. "I realized I wasn't a mother to them. I was a bank account. I was tired of funding people who saw me as an obstacle, not family." "But don't you think it's your duty to help your family?" "Miss Schmidt," I replied firmly, My duty as a mother was to raise my son, educate him, and prepare him to be independent. He's 35, married, and fully capable of supporting himself. Helping him financially is not my responsibility. It's a choice. And I've chosen to stop," Mr. Weber added. "Miss Schmidt, do you think it's normal for a 35-year-old man to depend on his 71-year-old mother to pay his rent?" Mrs. Schmidt hesitated. I could see her reassessing everything. "Mrs. Richter," she said after a pause, "do you handle your own finances? I can show you my bank records, investments, and tax filings. Everything is current and correct. Do you live independently? As you can see, my home is clean, I take care of myself, I drive, and I maintain healthy social relationships with my neighbors. Do you take any medication?" "Only vitamins and sometimes aspirin." "I don't have any medical conditions requiring regular medication," Mr. Weber added. "My client recently underwent full medical and psychological evaluations for our legal case. She's in excellent physical and mental health." Mrs. Schmidt closed her folder and stood up. "Mrs. Richter, based on this conversation and the documents reviewed, I see no signs that you're at risk or need intervention. I'll close this case." After she left, Mr. Weber and I sat silently for a few moments. "Renate," he said finally, "this won't stop here. Max and Lena are spending money they don't have, trying to have you declared incompetent." "Does that mean they're desperate?" I asked. "Exactly," he replied. "Their only option now is to file for legal incompetence. It's costly and difficult to win, but if they find a sympathetic judge and a cooperative psychiatrist, they might try to get a guardian appointed." The thought terrified me. "They could try to control my money. They'll try," he said. "But we have solid proof that you're fully competent and that their motive is greed, not concern." That afternoon, I called my sister Diana to share what had happened. "Do you realize how far they're willing to go for money?" she said after listening. "They're destroying relationships, spending money they don't have, and ruining their reputation, all to reach your bank account again." Her words made me think. Max and Lena had revealed their true selves. There was no going back, no real reconciliation possible. To them, I had never been a mother or a respected elder, just a walking source of cash. This realization, though painful, was freeing. I no longer questioned my decision or felt guilty for protecting myself. They had proven that my well-being meant less to them than my money. That evening, Eleanor arrived with a surprise. She had brought her garden club friends to meet me. "Renate," she said, "this is Cynthia, who you met at the salon, and my friends Maria, Carmen, and Alfreda. We've all faced similar situations with manipulative relatives." We spent the evening sharing stories. Maria had to distance herself from a brother who constantly borrowed money. Carmen had cut ties with her daughter, who only visited when she needed help. Alfreda had rewritten her will after learning her grandchildren saw her as their retirement plan. "What hurts me most," I said, "isn't losing the money, but realizing I never had the love I believed I did." "Renate," Alfreda said wisely, "real love can't be bought or sold. If you had to pay for it, it wasn't real." Her words soothed my heart. She was right. I had been buying attention, not love. I'd been financing an illusion. You know what I've learned? I told my new friends, being surrounded by people who don't love you is lonelier than being alone. At least now, when I'm alone, I'm with good company. Everyone laughed, and we toasted to our new understanding. That night, after they left, I sat in my garden. The stars seemed brighter. Or maybe I was finally seeing clearly. For the first time in my adult life, I was financially independent. I owed nothing to anyone. And instead of feeling scared, I felt excited. I could travel, remodel my home, buy nice clothes, support charities, and invest in my future, instead of financing the present of ungrateful people. Freedom felt like hope. For the first time in years, I wanted to plan ahead. A month after the social worker's visit, I thought the worst was behind me. Life had settled into a calm rhythm. I had breakfast while reading the paper, tended my garden, met Eleanor or my new friends for lunch, and spent afternoons painting, a passion I had abandoned while supporting Max and Lena. But one Thursday morning, while painting flowers on my new easel, Mr. Weber arrived with a grave expression that made my heart sink. "Renate, we need to talk," he said. "Max and Lena have filed a formal petition in family court to have you declared mentally incompetent. They're requesting a legal guardian be assigned to you." The words hit me like stones. I had feared this possibility, but hearing it confirmed made it real. Does that mean they can take my money? If a judge decides you can't manage your affairs, yes, Max could be named your guardian, giving him full control over your finances. I sat down, feeling the weight of betrayal. My own son was trying to have me declared unfit, just to take my money. What evidence could they possibly have? I asked. You've seen that I'm completely capable. They submitted statements from 3 witnesses who claim you've been acting erratically, plus unpaid medical bills and records of medications you supposedly hoard without taking. But that's false. I don't owe any bills or hoard medication. I know, Renate, he said, but they've created convincing evidence. They even included a statement from Dr. Lehman claiming you refused a psychiatric exam, which they're using as proof of mental decline. Their manipulation was cruel. They had turned my attempt to protect myself into supposed proof that I needed protection. Who are the 3 witnesses? Lena, a neighbor named Mr. Davis, and your pharmacist. Mr. Green, he replied. Mr. Davis was the rude neighbor across the street who often complained about parking. Mr. Green was my pharmacist. I couldn't imagine why he'd be involved. I need to speak to Mr. Green, I said. Something's wrong. We went to the pharmacy together. Mr. Green looked startled when he saw me. Mrs. Richter, it's good to see you, he said nervously. Mr. Green, I heard you signed a statement saying I mishandle my medication. Is that true? His face turned red. Mrs. Richter, your daughter-in-law came in weeks ago saying she was worried about your health. I told her you only buy vitamins and aspirin. She insisted that meant you weren't taking proper care of yourself. Mr. Weber stepped in. Did you sign a paper, Mr. Green? She brought a document saying I confirmed irregular medication purchases. I thought it was for her insurance. I didn't know it was for a lawsuit. Lena had tricked him into signing something he didn't understand. Mr. Green, I said, please write a statement explaining exactly what happened and confirming I have no medical issues. Of course. Mrs. Richter, I'm very sorry, he said. Next, we visited Mr. Davis. He opened the door, looking annoyed. What do you want? He snapped. Mr. Davis, Mr. Weber said, you signed a statement about my client's behavior? Yes, he said angrily. That woman's crazy. She installed cameras like she's in a war zone, has strangers over all the time, and yells at her family in the street. He had twisted everything out of context. The cameras were for safety. The strangers were my new friends. The yelling had been me defending my home. Mr. Davis, I said, do you know why I installed those cameras? No, and I don't care. To protect myself from my son and daughter-in-law, who broke into my house without permission and threatened me. That's exactly what a crazy person would say, he muttered. There was no reasoning with him. His words were based on assumptions and bias. That evening, Mr. Weber and I planned our defense. Renate, he said, we'll need an independent psychiatric evaluation. I know a specialist, Dr. Moore, who can confirm your full mental capacity. What if Max and Lena bribed the judge? I asked. What if it doesn't matter? The system isn't perfect, but it's not entirely corrupt. We have evidence of your competence and proof of their financial motive. We'll fight this. The next day, I met Dr. Moore, a woman in her 50s with calm, perceptive eyes. Mrs. Richter, she said, I'll ask you some questions and give you tests to assess your mental state. Please answer honestly. For 2 hours, she tested my memory, reasoning, emotional balance, and problem solving. At the end, she smiled. Mrs. Richter, your results are well above average for your age. You're not only fully competent, your cognitive ability is excellent. Doctor, why do you think my family is doing this? Based on what you've shared and the documents I've seen, she said, this appears to be a typical case of elder financial exploitation. Sadly, it's more common than people realize. I left the consultation feeling both relieved and heartbroken. The confirmation of my mental clarity brought comfort, but it also proved that the lawsuit was serious and unavoidable. That afternoon, Eleanor arranged an urgent meeting with all our garden club friends. When I told them about the incompetence petition, everyone was shocked. Renate, said Maria, will testify for you. We've spent weeks with you, and anyone can see you're doing wonderfully. Better than wonderfully, added Cynthia. You're sharper and stronger than many women in their 40s. Elfrida, with her 80 years of wisdom, took my hands gently. Renate, my dear, what your children are doing isn't new. For generations, greedy heirs have tried to declare their parents insane to gain control of their money. But you have something many victims didn't: evidence, legal support, and friends who can speak for you. Her words filled me with hope. I wasn't fighting this battle alone. I had an army of strong women who had seen my growth and strength with their own eyes. You know what saddens me the most? I said quietly. That Max and Lena are willing to destroy any chance of reconciliation for money. Even if I were willing to forgive, there's no way back after this. Maybe that's a good thing, Cynthia replied. Now you know exactly who they are, and you can move forward without illusions. That night, for the first time since this ordeal began, I cried. Not out of sorrow, but out of grief. I said goodbye to the son I thought I had, to the dream of a loving family, to the illusion that unconditional love was mutual. But something new was born inside me. A solid resolve not to lose not only my money, but also my dignity and freedom. The real fight had begun, and I was ready. 3 weeks later, the trial started. I woke up early, put on my best black suit, and looked in the mirror with a determination I'd never felt before. Today, it wasn't just my mental capacity being judged, it was my dignity, my right to live free from abuse, and my value as a person beyond money. Mr. Weber arrived at 7 a.m. to review our plan one last time. Renate, remember, the burden of proof is on them. They must prove you're incompetent. We only need to show you're not. And if the judge is biased? I asked. Judge Miller is known to be fair. I've reviewed his previous cases. He doesn't automatically side with families. He protects the rights of the elderly. We reached the courthouse at 9 a.m. In the hallway, I saw Max in a new suit, probably bought for this day, and Lena in black, as if attending a funeral. Maybe it was one. The funeral of our family bond. When our eyes met, Max looked away, but Lena's cold stare made it clear. For her, this was purely business. Their lawyer, an older, confident man, began with a tone of practiced sympathy. His strategy was obvious, to portray me as a confused old woman misled by strangers who turned me against my loving family. Your Honor, he began solemnly, Mrs. Renate Richter has shown clear mental decline in recent months. She abruptly cut off her family's financial support without a logical reason, installed unnecessary security systems out of paranoia, and isolated herself under the influence of neighbors and lawyers, exploiting her vulnerability. Every word was designed to twist my independence into signs of illness. Then came their witnesses. Lena testified first, performing her role with perfect tears. She spoke about my supposed paranoia and isolation. Your Honor, she said, voice trembling, Renate has always been like a second mother to me. Watching her mental decline has been heartbreaking. We only want to help her get the care she needs. A performance of lies wrapped in emotion. When Mr. Weber cross-examined her, the cracks showed quickly. Mrs. Schuster, he began, when was the last time you called my client without asking for money? Lena hesitated. We talked about many things. Can you give a specific date? I don't remember exactly. Is it true you and your husband got married without inviting her? It was a small ceremony. And when she asked about it, did you tell her you only invited special people? Lena's face flushed. That was taken out of context. And what context makes it right to tell your mother-in-law she isn't special? Lena had no answer. Then Max took the stand. Seeing my son swear to tell the truth while preparing to lie about me was the most painful moment of all. My mother has always been generous, he said. But lately, she's been erratic and easily influenced by people taking advantage of her. Mr. Weber's questioning exposed the truth. Mr. Richter, how much money have you received from your mother in the last 3 years? I don't know exactly. Would $33,400 sound correct? Maybe. She's always been generous. How many times have you visited her without asking for money? Silence. Is it true you broke into her house without permission and went through her private documents? We were worried. Did you bring a lawyer to pressure her into signing a power of attorney? We only wanted to help manage her finances. At 35 years old, do you still need your 71-year-old mother to pay your rent? Max had no dignified answer. Mr. Davis, the neighbor, spoke next about my odd behavior, but admitted under questioning that he had never spoken to me directly. His claims were based only on assumptions. Dr. Lehman testified that my refusal to take an earlier exam showed mental decline. Mr. Weber immediately presented. Dr. Moore's full evaluation proving my excellent cognitive health, completely discrediting Lehman's claim. Then came our witnesses. Mr. Green, the pharmacist, explained how Lena had tricked him into signing a misleading statement. Dr. Moore testified about my strong mental state and perfect test. Results. Mr. Summers from the hardware store confirmed that my financial decisions were sound and well documented. Eleanor and my garden club friends spoke about my clear thinking, stability, and active social life. Finally, it was my turn. I stood with dignity, walked to the stand, and felt the strength of all my years. Mr. Weber guided me gently through my story. The 33,400, the humiliation of exclusion, the emotional manipulation, the invasion of privacy, the threats. Mrs. Richter, he asked finally, why did you stop supporting your son and daughter-in-law financially? Because I finally understood that what I received from them wasn't love, I said clearly. It was a transaction disguised as family affection. My money was welcome. I wasn't. Do you regret your decision? I only regret not making it sooner. Max's lawyer tried to confuse me during cross-examination, but I answered calmly and precisely. When he suggested my new friends manipulated me, I explained that for the first time in years, my relationships were based on respect, not money. In closing, Max's lawyer repeated that I was under bad influence. Mr. Weber's rebuttal was powerful. Your Honor, what we have here is not a case of mental decline, but of a woman reclaiming her independence after years of emotional and financial abuse. The plaintiffs have shown no medical evidence, only frustration that their income source has chosen to protect herself. Judge Miller deliberated for 2 long hours. When he returned, his expression was firm. After reviewing the evidence, he said, "It is clear that Mrs. Renata Richter is fully competent. The psychiatric evaluation confirms her cognitive stability. Her financial choices, while difficult for her family, are rational and within her rights." My heart pounded as he continued. Furthermore, the court finds this lawsuit to be motivated by financial interest rather than genuine concern. The petition for guardianship is denied. I had won, not just the case, but my freedom, dignity, and right to live on my own terms. Outside, I saw Max and Lena arguing with their lawyer. Lena glared at me with hatred before walking away. Max glanced back once, and for a moment I thought I saw regret. But it was too late. That evening, Eleanor hosted a small celebration at my home. We toasted to justice, to freedom, and to the sisterhood of strong women. "Renate," said Elfrida, "today you didn't just win a case. You won back your life." She was right. For the first time in years, the future was entirely mine. I could travel. I could create. I could live without fear, guilt, or manipulation. 3 months later, I sold my house and moved into a lovely apartment near the city center. I donated half my money to organizations that defend the elderly against family abuse. With the rest, I began living the life I'd always dreamed of, traveling through Europe, taking art classes, and volunteering. I never heard from Max or Lena again. Others told me they'd moved to a smaller apartment and that Lena was finally working. Maybe adversity would teach them what my generosity never could: the value of honest work and independence. Some nights, I look at the stars from my new balcony and think about the woman I was a year ago, fearful, manipulated, and desperate to buy love. That woman is gone. In her place stands someone who finally understands a simple truth. True love has no price, and freedom is never too expensive. My name is Renate. I'm 72 years old, and I've finally learned that the most important person I must love and protect is myself. If you liked my story, please support me so I can write more. Thank you in advance. And tell me, what would you do in my place? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'm always eager to hear from you. For more real-life stories, like the video and subscribe to my channel. With warm regards, until next time, Mutt.